In the vastness of space, where civilizations rise and fall like waves on cosmic shores, there exists a fundamental truth that every species learns eventually. Never mistake kindness for weakness. The Galactic Council, in their infinite arrogance, believed they understood the small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable star. They had observed humanity for decades, watching their primitive squabbles, their inefficient governments, their seemingly chaotic nature. What they failed to understand was that chaos, when properly directed, becomes the most terrifying force in the universe. When the Council delivered their ultimatum to Earth, they expected submission. They expected fear. They expected the humans to bow their heads and accept their place as a servant species in the galactic hierarchy. Instead, they got something that would haunt their dreams for generations to come. They got humanity's reply. We tried to be reasonable. We tried to be diplomatic. We tried to be civilized. But when someone threatens your family, your home, your entire species, sometimes the only language they understand is written in fire and fury across the stars themselves.
Admiral Sarah Chen, First Human Fleet Commander, final transmission before the Battle of Kepler.
442, the morning sky above Geneva was particularly clear when the ships arrived, not with the dramatic fanfare of science fiction movies, but with a quiet efficiency that somehow made them more terrifying. 12 massive vessels, each the size of a city, simply appeared in Earth's atmosphere as if they had always been there. Dr. Elena Vasquez was reviewing agricultural reports in her small office at the United Nations when her assistant burst through the door. Maria's face was pale, her hands shaking as she held up her tablet. Dr. Vasquez, you need to see this. Every news channel, every satellite feed. They're everywhere. Elena looked at the screen and felt the world shift beneath her feet. The ships hung motionless above major cities across the globe. New York, London, Moscow, Beijing, Delhi, Sao Paulo, each one casting shadows that covered entire districts. Within hours, every government on Earth was in emergency session. Elena found herself in a cramped conference room deep beneath the UN building, surrounded by faces she recognized from news broadcasts and diplomatic functions. The Secretary General, pale and drawn, sat at the head of the table while military advisors whispered urgently into their phones. "Ladies and gentlemen," the Secretary General began, his voice steady despite the circumstances, "we have received a communication. It came simultaneously to every major government, every military installation, every major media outlet. The message is identical in every case." He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. The image that appeared was unlike anything Elena had ever seen. The being was tall, perhaps 8 feet, with smooth gray skin and large, intelligent eyes. Its voice when it spoke was melodious, yet somehow cold. "People of Earth," the alien began, "I am Ambassador Korvac of the Galactic Council. Your species has reached a level of technological and social development that requires immediate intervention. For too long, your world has been a source of chaos and violence that threatens the stability of this sector of the galaxy." Elena felt her mouth go dry. Around the table, she could see the same shock and disbelief reflected on every face. Your constant warfare, your destruction of your environment, your inability to achieve true unity as a species has been noted and found wanting. The Galactic Council, in its wisdom, has decided that Earth must be placed under protective custody for the good of all civilized beings. The ambassador's expression never changed as he delivered what was clearly an ultimatum disguised as benevolent concern. Effective immediately, Earth will surrender all military assets to Council forces. Your governments will be dissolved and replaced by a Council-appointed administration. Your population will be relocated to designated areas where they can be properly supervised and educated in the ways of galactic civilization. Any resistance will be met with the full force of Council authority. The hologram flickered and died, leaving the room in stunned silence. General Morrison, a grizzled veteran Elena had met several times at international conferences, was the first to speak. "How long do we have?" 72 hours, came the reply from a young aide who had been monitoring communications. The message included a countdown timer. Elena watched as the room erupted in heated discussion. Some voices called for immediate surrender, arguing that resistance against such obviously superior technology was futile. Others, led by General Morrison and several other military leaders, insisted that humanity should fight regardless of the odds. "You're talking about suicide, Doctor." Hassan from the Egyptian delegation argued, "These beings have technology we can't even comprehend. Those ships appeared in our atmosphere without triggering a single defense system. They could probably destroy our entire civilization with the push of a button." "Maybe," Morrison replied grimly. "But I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees." Elena found herself thinking about her daughter safely at university in California. What kind of future would these aliens create for humanity? What did proper supervision really mean? As the debate raged around her, Elena noticed something that the others seemed to have missed. She had spent years studying agricultural systems, population dynamics, and resource allocation. The aliens spoke of humanity's chaos and violence, but their solution involved relocating the entire human population. "Where?" she said quietly. The room gradually fell silent as her voice carried, "Where are they planning to relocate us?" Elena asked more loudly. "They talk about designated areas. Where? How many people? What kind of areas?" Dr. Hassan frowned. "Does it matter? We don't exactly have a choice in the matter." "It always matters," Elena replied, her mind racing. 8 billion people don't just disappear. You can't relocate an entire species without massive infrastructure. Food, water, housing, medical care. Either they're planning to build the largest refugee camps in galactic history or... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. General Morrison leaned forward. "Or they're not planning to relocate all of us." Elena nodded grimly. "The Romans had a word for what they did to people they considered inconveniently numerous: decimation. Except they usually had the courtesy to tell you they were only keeping 1 in 10 alive." The Secretary General rubbed his temples. "You're saying you think this is genocide. I'm saying we should ask some very specific questions before we make any decisions," Elena replied. "Questions like, exactly how many humans are they planning to keep? What criteria will they use to select who lives and who dies? What happens to our culture, our history, our art?" "Our freedom," Morrison added quietly. The discussion that followed was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. These weren't abstract policy debates about trade agreements or environmental protocols. They were literally deciding the fate of human civilization. Dr. Chen from the Chinese delegation pulled up data on his tablet. "Our intelligence services have been monitoring the ships since they arrived. They're not just sitting there. They're scanning everything. Every military base, every population center, every resource deposit. They're conducting a complete survey." "For what purpose?" someone asked. "You catalog assets before you liquidate them," Morrison said grimly. "Standard military procedure." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "We need to contact them, ask for clarification." "Buy time? Time for what?" Dr. Hassan demanded. "Even if you're right about their intentions, what can we possibly do?" That was when Elena noticed General Morrison's expression. The old soldier was staring at something on his tablet, his face a mask of grim satisfaction. "General?" the Secretary General prompted. Morrison looked up, and Elena saw something in his eyes that both terrified and encouraged her. It was the look of a man who had just realized he held better cards than his opponents suspected. "I've been in contact with our military leaders worldwide. We've been running scenarios, making preparations." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "The aliens made a critical error. They assumed our governments speak for our militaries. They don't." Elena frowned. "I don't understand." "They sent their ultimatum to political leaders. Presidents, prime ministers, the UN, but they ignored something fundamental about human nature. Our soldiers don't just follow orders. They swear oaths to protect their countries, their families, their species. Morrison's tablet chimed softly and he glanced at it before continuing. In the last 6 hours, while we've been debating surrender, something remarkable has happened. Military units across the globe have been receiving new orders, not from their governments, but from their oath. You're talking about mutiny, Dr. Hassan said, aghast. I'm talking about duty, Morrison replied. The duty to defend humanity against any threat, foreign or domestic. Or, in this case, extraterrestrial. Elena felt the world shifting again. What kind of preparations? Morrison's smile was predatory. The kind our alien friends didn't expect. They've been watching us for decades, studying our wars, our conflicts, our technology. But they made the same mistake every intelligence analyst makes when studying an enemy. They focused on what they could see. He stood up, walking to the holographic display and activating it again. Instead of the alien ambassador, a map of the world appeared, dotted with thousands of red points. These are confirmed military installations that the aliens have identified and are presumably preparing to neutralize. Bases, weapons depots, command centers. Everything you'd expect. The map shifted and thousands of blue points appeared alongside the red ones. These are installations they haven't identified. Deep storage facilities, hidden research labs, black sites that officially don't exist, assets that were specifically designed to remain invisible to surveillance. Elena stared at the display. How many? Enough, Morrison said simply. The aliens want to know about human capability? They're about to get a very thorough demonstration. Dr. Hassan was shaking his head. This is insane. You're talking about starting a war with beings who have technology centuries ahead of ours. No, Elena said quietly, understanding beginning to dawn. He's talking about finishing one. Morrison nodded. The war started the moment they decided humanity was inconvenient. We just weren't formally notified until today. Elena thought about her daughter again, but this time the fear was joined by something else. Hope, perhaps, or maybe just stubborn human pride. What do you need from us? She asked. Morrison's expression softened slightly. Time. Distraction. While the politicians debate and the media speculates, we need the aliens to believe they understand what they're dealing with. Let them think we're confused, divided, helpless. We are confused and divided, the Secretary General pointed out. But we're not helpless, Elena said. How long do you need? 48 hours would be ideal. 36 would work. 24 is cutting it close, but manageable. Elena looked around the room at her fellow delegates. She could see the same struggle playing out on every face. The safe choice was surrender. The logical choice was surrender. The survival choice might well be surrender. But then she thought about the ambassador's cold eyes, his casual dismissal of human sovereignty, his euphemistic language about relocation and supervision. We'll give you your 48 hours, she said. God help us all. Morrison nodded gravely. Ma'am, with all due respect, I don't think God is going to help us with this one. I think we're going to have to help ourselves. As the meeting broke up and delegates hurried off to contact their governments, Elena lingered in the conference room. Through the reinforced window, she could see one of the alien ships hanging motionless over Geneva. It looked serene, almost beautiful in the afternoon light. She wondered what it would look like when it was burning. Outside, the world held its breath and waited for humanity's answer. Inside hidden facilities across the globe, that answer was already being prepared. The Galactic Council had made their position clear. Now it was time for Earth to make theirs. And as Elena finally left the conference room and walked through corridors filled with frightened, determined faces, she found herself thinking about something her grandfather had told her years ago. He had been a resistance fighter during the Second World War, and he had lived to see freedom return to his homeland. The thing about bullies, he had said, is that they never expect their victims to hit back, and when they do hit back, the bullies discover they're not nearly as tough as they thought they were. Elena hoped her grandfather was right, because in less than 48 hours, humanity was going to hit back with everything they had. The aliens wanted to see human violence? They were about to get a demonstration that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex had been officially decommissioned as NORAD headquarters 15 years earlier. Officially, it was now a museum and historical site. Unofficially, it housed one of the most advanced military installations on Earth, buried so deep beneath solid granite that it might as well have been on another planet. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the primary command center, watching dozens of screens that showed data streams from across the globe. The alien ships continued their methodical scanning of Earth's surface, apparently confident that their 72-hour deadline would be met with either compliance or futile resistance. They were about to discover how wrong they were. "Admiral," Colonel Martinez approached with a tablet in hand, "we're receiving confirmation from all sectors. Operation Prometheus is fully activated." Sarah nodded without taking her eyes off the displays. Prometheus had been theoretical until 18 hours ago. A contingency plan developed by a joint task force of military strategists, scientists, and engineers from every major nation on Earth. The kind of plan that existed only in classified files in the nightmares of military planners. Until alien ships appeared in Earth's skies and made nightmares into necessity. "What's our status on the primary objectives?" Sarah asked. "Luna Base reports full operational capacity. Mars Station is at 93%. The asteroid mining facilities are coming online ahead of schedule." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had been watching Earth for decades, cataloging human military capabilities. What they hadn't realized was that human military capabilities weren't limited to Earth. Humanity had been reaching for the stars for nearly a century. What had started as scientific curiosity and national prestige had quietly evolved into something far more significant. Mining operations on asteroids, research stations on Mars. A growing infrastructure that existed beyond the reach of any earthbound threat, including, it turned out, arrogant alien overlords. "Any response from the Galactic Council to our diplomatic inquiries?" Sarah asked. "Ambassador Williams has been attempting to establish communication for the past 6 hours. They're being ignored. The aliens seem to believe their ultimatum was sufficiently clear." Sarah's smile turned predatory. "I suppose it was. They want our answer? They'll get it right on schedule." She turned to address the command center. "Attention all personnel. This is Admiral Chen. In approximately 36 hours, humanity will make its position clear to the Galactic Council. Every person in this room, every person in our facilities across the solar system, every soldier and civilian who has chosen to stand with us instead of kneeling to aliens who see us as inconveniences, you are about to witness something unprecedented in human history." The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of electronics and the soft chatter of ongoing communications. "We are about to become the first species in galactic history to tell the Galactic Council to go to hell. And then we're going to make it stick." A cheer went up from the assembled personnel, quickly suppressed by the discipline of experienced military professionals. But Sarah could see it in their eyes. Fear, yes, but also determination, pride, and something that had driven humanity from the caves to the stars, the absolute refusal to submit to anyone or anything that threatened their freedom. "Colonel Martinez, what's our intelligence assessment of the alien ships?" Martinez consulted his tablet. Preliminary scans suggest 12 Dreadnought-class vessels, each approximately 2 kilometers in length. Shield technology appears to be energy-based, possibly plasma field variants. Propulsion systems are unclear but demonstrate gravity manipulation capabilities. Weapons? Unknown, but we have to assume they're significantly advanced beyond our conventional arsenals. However, Martinez paused, consulting another screen. Dr. Peterson from the Theoretical Physics Division has some interesting observations. Put her on screen. Dr. Lisa Peterson appeared on the main display, broadcasting from what Sarah recognized as the Lunar Research Facility. The slight delay in transmission was a reminder of just how far humanity's reach had extended.
"Admiral Chen, we've been analyzing the energy signatures from the alien vessels.
There's something peculiar about their scanning patterns." "Explain." They're using active sensor sweeps, high-energy particle beams that can penetrate most known materials. Very effective for cataloging surface installations and technology. But, Sarah prompted. They're scanning like they expect to find conventional military assets, tanks, aircraft, missiles, nuclear weapons. They're looking for threats they understand. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. And what aren't they looking for? They don't seem to be scanning for exotic physics applications. No gravitational anomaly detection, no dark matter sensors, no temporal distortion monitoring. In layman's terms, Doctor, Peterson's expression was grim satisfaction. They're looking for World War II technology with better engineering. They have no idea what we've actually been developing for the past 50 years. Sarah turned to Colonel Martinez. Status on the Manhattan projects? Martinez consulted several screens before responding. Manhattan 2 is fully operational. Manhattan 3 achieved breakthrough parameters last month. Manhattan 4 is still theoretical, but the preliminary results are promising. And Manhattan V? Successfully tested 3 days ago. Dr. Hendricks from Los Alamos says it exceeded all projected parameters. Sarah nodded slowly. The Manhattan projects had been humanity's deepest secret for decades. A series of black-budget research programs that pushed the boundaries of physics, engineering, and military theory. Each one building on discoveries made during humanity's expansion into space, each one designed to ensure that humanity would never again be vulnerable to threats beyond Earth. The irony was not lost on Sarah that humanity's greatest defensive weapons had been inspired by science fiction stories about alien invasion. "Admiral," a communications officer called out, "we're receiving priority transmissions from all allied governments. They're requesting status updates on our defensive preparations. Tell them that humanity's response is being prepared according to schedule. 47 hours and 36 minutes from now, the Galactic Council will receive our answer." Sarah walked to a bank of monitors showing feeds from across Earth. In every major city, the alien ships maintained their silent vigil. Below them, human civilization appeared to be responding with typical inefficiency. Protests in some cities, panic buying in others, religious gatherings, government officials making contradictory statements to the media, exactly what the aliens expected to see from a chaotic, primitive species facing superior force. What they couldn't see was the coordination beneath the chaos, military units moving to predetermined positions, scientists and engineers working around the clock in hidden facilities. Resources being quietly redirected from civilian to military applications. And beyond Earth's atmosphere, humanity's true answer was taking shape. "Admiral," Dr. Peterson's voice crackled through the speakers again, "we're detecting increased alien scanning activity around our major population centers. They seem to be conducting detailed biological surveys, cataloging the livestock," Sarah said grimly. "How many humans they plan to keep and how many they consider expendable." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the command center. Every person there understood what they were facing. This wasn't conquest in any traditional sense. It was a combination of slavery and genocide, dressed up in euphemistic language about galactic civilization and proper supervision. "Any response from the other species in the Council?" Sarah asked, still analyzing the intelligence we received from the deep space monitoring stations. "It appears the Galactic Council consists of approximately 47 member species. Most of them seem to be former independents who were elevated to Council membership through similar circumstances to what we're facing now." "How many voluntarily joined?" Martinez consulted his notes. "According to the intercepts, exactly 0. The Galactic Council appears to be less a voluntary alliance and more a protection racket operated by the first few species to achieve interstellar travel." Sarah felt a cold anger building in her chest. "So we're dealing with galactic bullies who have been doing this for centuries." "It appears so, and according to our xenobiological analysis, none of the subjected species ever mounted significant resistance. Most surrendered immediately upon first contact. Because they had no choice. Their entire civilization was confined to a single planet. Once the Council controlled their homeworld, resistance was impossible." Sarah looked at the monitors again, but this time her attention wasn't on the alien ships. Instead, she focused on the data streams showing activity throughout the solar system. Mars Station was completing final preparations. The asteroid mining facilities were bringing their exotic matter collectors online. The deep space monitoring stations were tracking Council fleet movements in nearby systems. The Council made a critical miscalculation, Sarah said aloud. They assumed humans would react like every other species they've encountered, planet-bound, limited resources, no alternatives. But we're not planet-bound anymore, Martinez observed. And we haven't been for decades. Our civilization spans multiple worlds now. Our industrial base includes asteroid mining and zero-gravity manufacturing. Our energy production utilizes technologies that didn't exist when the Council was last at war. Sarah activated a holographic display that showed the solar system in miniature. Earth appeared as a blue dot, but it was surrounded by thousands of other indicators. Space stations, mining operations, research facilities, defense platforms that officially didn't exist. The Council sees a primitive species confined to a single world. What we actually are is a distributed civilization with redundant infrastructure and the most advanced theoretical physics research in the galaxy. Admiral, the communications officer called out again. We're receiving a priority message from Ambassador Williams. The aliens have responded to our diplomatic inquiries. Put it through. Ambassador Williams appeared on the screen, his face drawn with exhaustion and frustration. Admiral Chen, I've spent the last 8 hours attempting to establish meaningful dialogue with the Council representatives. They finally agreed to a formal response. What did they say? Williams consulted his notes with obvious distaste. Quote, the Council's decision is final. Compliance with relocation orders is not optional. Further communication is unnecessary. Resistance will be interpreted as hostility toward galactic civilization and dealt with accordingly. End quote. Sarah nodded slowly. Any clarification on the specifics of this relocation? I pressed them for details. They eventually admitted that the current human population is considered excessive for proper supervision. They're planning to relocate approximately 50 million humans to designated facilities. The rest of the population is considered. Williams paused, his face pale, redundant. The command center fell silent except for the steady hum of electronics. 7.5 billion people. Redundant, Admiral, Colonel Martinez said quietly, we have our justification. Sarah looked around the room at the faces of her staff. Men and women who had spent their careers preparing for wars that might never come, studying enemies that might never appear, developing weapons that might never be used. Today, all of that preparation would finally matter. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah announced, the Galactic Council has just made the biggest mistake in their species' history. They've threatened the extinction of human civilization, and they've done it with the assumption that we'll submit peacefully. She activated the holographic display again, but this time it showed something different. Fleet positions throughout the solar system. Weapon systems coming online. Energy signatures that represented technologies the Council had never encountered. In 35 hours and 17 minutes, Operation Prometheus begins. The aliens wanted to know what human violence looks like when properly motivated. They're about to receive a demonstration that will be remembered for millennia. Sarah's expression hardened as she looked at the data streams flowing across her screens. The Council had made their choice. They had drawn their line in the sand. They had declared their intention to commit genocide against humanity. Now they were going to learn why that was a mistake. Signal all stations. Begin final preparations. And send a message to every Council ship in Earth orbit. What should it say, Admiral? Sarah's smile was cold as the space between stars. Tell them they have 35 hours to leave our solar system voluntarily. After that, we stop asking nicely. The USS Defiance hung in the void beyond Pluto's orbit, invisible to conventional sensors and shielded by technologies that existed only in the most classified human research facilities. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge watching the holographic tactical display that showed the approach of the Galactic Council's enforcement fleet. 47 ships had just entered the solar system, ranging in size from destroyers comparable to the vessels already orbiting Earth to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in humanity's conventional arsenal. They moved with the confidence of a force that had never encountered meaningful resistance. "Captain," Commander Torres reported from the sensor station, "the Council fleet is maintaining standard formation. No evasive patterns, minimal scanning protocols. They're not expecting opposition." Webb nodded grimly. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced warship, incorporating 50 years of black-budget research into exotic physics and quantum engineering. It was also completely invisible to Council sensors, along with her sister ships positioned throughout the outer solar system. "Any response to our warning about the 35-hour deadline?" "Yes, sir." The Council commander broadcast a general message approximately 10 minutes ago. "Let's hear it." The bridge speakers crackled to life with an alien voice speaking accented but clear English. "Attention, primitive human vessels. Your threats are noted and dismissed. The Council fleet will proceed to Earth orbit to oversee compliance with relocation orders. Any interference will result in immediate destruction of your homeworld. You have been warned." Webb felt his jaw tighten. Throughout the bridge, he could see similar reactions on the faces of his crew. These aliens spoke of destroying humanity's homeworld with the same casual indifference they might use to discuss removing an obstacle from their path. "Commander Torres, status on Operation Prometheus?" "All stations report ready, Captain. Mars Command confirms defensive platforms are online. Luna Base has weapon systems fully charged. The asteroid belt installations are standing by." Webb consulted his chronometer. 18 hours until the deadline expired. 18 hours to let the aliens fully commit to their attack before revealing that humanity was far from helpless. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim called from the communication station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Chen." "Put it through." Admiral Chen appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the Cheyenne Mountain facility.
"Captain Webb, you are authorized to begin preliminary operations."
Rules of engagement are simple. Any Council vessel that attempts to engage human targets is a legitimate military objective. You are authorized to use all available assets. Webb felt a surge of anticipation mixed with apprehension. All available assets included weapon systems that had never been tested in actual combat conditions. Technologies that existed at the very edge of human understanding. What about the ships currently in Earth orbit? They're being handled separately. Your job is to prevent the enforcement fleet from reaching Earth by any means necessary. The transmission ended, leaving Webb alone with his thoughts and his responsibilities. 47 alien warships were approaching Earth with the intention of enslaving or exterminating the human race. Standing in their way was a single human vessel that officially didn't exist, armed with weapons that officially had never been built. "All hands, this is the captain," Webb announced over the ship's intercom. "In approximately 18 hours, we will engage the Council enforcement fleet. This will be humanity's first space battle, and possibly our last if we fail. Every person on this ship has volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. Today, we find out if 50 years of preparation and research were worth it." He paused, looking around the bridge at the faces of men and women who represented the best of human military and scientific achievement. The aliens believe humans are primitive, chaotic, and incapable of meaningful resistance. In a few hours, we're going to prove them wrong. All stations prepare for combat operations. The next several hours passed with agonizing slowness as the Council fleet approached and human forces throughout the solar system made final preparations. Webb received regular updates from other elements of Operation Prometheus. The defensive platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt were coming online. Mars Station had successfully activated their experimental gravity weaponry. Luna Base was charging the prototype antimatter cannons that had been built in absolute secrecy over the past decade. "Captain," Commander Torres called out, "the Council fleet is beginning deceleration. They'll be in Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours." "Any sign they've detected our presence?" "Negative, sir. Their sensors are still focused on conventional threat assessment. They're scanning for nuclear weapons, chemical propulsion systems, electromagnetic launchers. They have no idea we're here." Webb studied the tactical display. The Council formation was textbook perfect for dealing with primitive resistance. Dreadnoughts in the center, surrounded by screening vessels, with fast attack ships positioned to intercept any missiles or fighter craft that Earth might deploy. It was exactly the wrong formation to deal with what humanity actually had waiting for them. Signal Mars, Command, and Luna Base. Begin Phase 1. On the tactical display, new contacts suddenly appeared throughout the inner solar system. Dozens of previously hidden installations came online simultaneously, their energy signatures blazing across every sensor in the solar system. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim reported with barely contained excitement, "we're receiving transmissions from the Council fleet." They're confused. "Put their communications through." The bridge speakers, filled with rapid conversation in what sounded like several different alien languages, overlaid with the mechanical precision of universal translators. Energy signatures from Mars orbital space. Massive installations on the third planet's moon. Artificial constructs throughout the asteroid field. This intelligence was not in the survey data. Webb allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 was purely psychological warfare. Let the aliens discover that their intelligence about human capabilities was completely inadequate. Let them wonder what else they had missed. "Captain," Torres reported, "the Council fleet is reducing speed and spreading their formation. They're beginning intensive sensor sweeps of all human installations. Let them look. Signal all stations. Maintain passive sensor mode only. No target locks, no active scanning, no threatening movements. We want them curious, not alarmed." The Council fleet spent the next 4 hours conducting detailed scans of every human facility they could detect. Webb watched their formation gradually shift from confident advance to cautious patrol. Good. Uncertainty was a weapon, and humans had just demonstrated that the Council's intelligence about Earth was severely flawed. "Sir," Kim called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship. It's addressed to Earth governments. Let's hear it." A new alien voice came through the speakers, more authoritative than the previous communication. "Attention human authorities. Council survey has detected numerous undeclared military installations throughout your solar system. These facilities will surrender immediately for inspection or be classified as hostile targets. You have 2 of your planetary rotation periods to comply." Webb checked his chronometer again. 2 more hours until the original deadline expired. The aliens were buying themselves time to figure out what they were actually facing. "Commander Torres? Analysis of their scanning patterns? They're particularly interested in the Mars facilities and the Luna Base installations. The asteroid belt platform seemed to have them confused. I don't think they understand what they're looking at." "Because they're not looking for weapons that utilize exotic matter manipulation and quantum field dynamics," Webb observed. "They're expecting missiles and energy beams." "They have no idea we've been weaponizing fundamental forces of physics." "Sir, incoming priority transmission from Admiral Chen." Chen appeared on the main screen again, her expression grim with determination. "Captain Webb, the aliens have just sent an ultimatum to Earth governments. They're demanding immediate inspection of all human installations. They also dispatched 3 scout ships to investigate our outer system defenses." Webb felt his pulse quicken. "Are we authorized to engage? You are authorized to demonstrate the consequences of trespassing in human space. Make sure the demonstration is memorable." The transmission ended, and Webb turned to his crew. "All hands, battle stations. We are now at condition red. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, klaxons began to sound as the crew prepared for humanity's first interstellar combat operation. Webb watched the tactical display as 3 Council scout ships accelerated toward the outer system where Defiance waited in silent ambush. "Target acquisition?" he asks. "All 3 vessels locked, Captain. They'll be in optimal firing range in 14 minutes. Weapons status? Primary exotic matter cannon charged and ready. Quantum torpedo tubes loaded. Gravitational mine deployment system standing by." Webb nodded slowly. For 50 years, human scientists and engineers had worked in absolute secrecy to develop weapons that could defend Earth against threats from space. They had studied theoretical physics, exotic matter, quantum mechanics, and gravitational manipulation. They had built technologies that pushed the boundaries of known science. Today, they would find out if it was enough. "Captain," Taurus announced, "the lead scout ship is beginning active scanning. They're looking for us." Webb smiled coldly. "Let them look. They won't find us until we want to be found. And by then, it will be too late." The 3 Council scouts approached in standard formation, their sensors sweeping space for any sign of human presence. Their technology was advanced by galactic standards, certainly superior to anything Earth had possessed even a decade earlier. But they were looking for conventional threats, stealth ships that hid from radar and thermal sensors, cloaked vessels that bent light around their hulls, electronic countermeasures that jammed communications and guidance systems. They weren't looking for a ship that existed in a parallel dimensional framework, occupying the same space as normal matter but accessible only to sensors that could detect quantum probability fluctuations. Range to target, optimal firing solution in 30 seconds, Captain. Webb took a deep breath. In 30 seconds, humanity would officially be at war with the Galactic Council. There would be no going back, no possibility of surrender or negotiation. Either humans would prove themselves capable of standing against galactic civilization, or their species would cease to exist. "All weapons, prepare to fire on my command." The seconds ticked by with agonizing precision. On the tactical display, the 3 Council scouts continued their approach, unaware that they were about to encounter technologies that existed at the very edge of what physics considered possible. "Captain," Torres reported, his voice steady despite the tension, "we are at optimal range." Webb looked around the bridge one last time, meeting the eyes of each crew member. These men and women represented the best of humanity's military and scientific achievement. They had volunteered for a mission that would either save their species or die trying. "For Earth," Webb said quietly, "for humanity," came the response from every station on the bridge: "Fire." The first shot in humanity's war for survival was not the thunderous roar of conventional weapons or the brilliant flash of energy beams. Instead, it was something far more terrifying to any civilization advanced enough to understand what they were witnessing: the deliberate manipulation of reality itself. Captain Webb watched on the main screen as the lead Council scout ship simply ceased to exist, not destroyed in the traditional sense, but erased from normal space-time as the exotic matter cannon altered the fundamental properties of the matter within its target area. The alien vessel collapsed into a point of impossible density before vanishing entirely, leaving behind only a brief gravitational anomaly that quickly dissipated. "Second target locked," Commander Torres reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they had just accomplished. "Quantum torpedoes, fire." The second scout ship had barely begun to react to the destruction of their companion when space around them began to behave in ways that violated every known law of physics. The quantum torpedoes didn't impact their target in any conventional sense. Instead, they created localized probability fields that made the continued existence of the target statistically improbable. The result was a ship that simultaneously existed and didn't exist, caught in a quantum superposition that lasted exactly 3.7 seconds before reality chose the option where the vessel had never been there at all. "Third target attempting to flee," Torres announced. "Gravitational mines, deploy and activate." Webb watched as the third scout ship, now aware that they faced something completely beyond their understanding, attempted to escape to hyperspace. Their jump drive began the complex calculations necessary for faster-than-light travel, but they never got the chance to complete them. The gravitational mines created artificial singularities in the space around the fleeing vessel, establishing gravity wells that made FTL navigation impossible. Trapped between competing gravitational fields, the scout ship was torn apart by tidal forces that no material could withstand. "All targets eliminated, Captain," Torres reported. "No survivors detected." Webb nodded grimly. 3 ships had been destroyed in under 60 seconds using weapons that the Council had no frame of reference to understand. More importantly, every Council vessel in the solar system had just witnessed technologies that shouldn't exist. Communications open a channel to the Council fleet. Channel open, sir. Webb stood, straightening his uniform. This would be humanity's formal declaration of war against the galactic civilization that had ruled space for millennia. Attention, Galactic Council forces. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your scout ships have been eliminated for trespassing in human space after receiving clear warnings. You now have a choice. He paused, letting his words sink in. Throughout the solar system, on every council ship, alien commanders were trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Leave our solar system immediately and never return, or discover what happens when humans stop being polite. You have 1 hour to comply. Webb cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Signal all stations throughout the solar system. Operation Prometheus is now fully active. If the Council fleet doesn't withdraw within the hour, we show them why threatening human extinction was a mistake. The response from the Council fleet was swift and predictable. Within minutes, long-range sensors detected the alien formation accelerating toward Earth, their weapons systems coming online as they prepared for what they assumed would be a quick suppression of primitive resistance. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim reported, "we're receiving transmissions from Admiral Chen at Cheyenne Mountain." Chen's image appeared on the main screen, her expression fierce with determination. "Captain Webb, the Council has rejected our offer. All Earth facilities report ready for defensive operations. Mars Command is requesting permission to engage. Granted, Admiral. Let's show them what they're really dealing with." What happened next would be analyzed by xenomilitary historians for centuries. Mars Station, which the Council had dismissed as a minor research facility, revealed itself to be humanity's first major weapons platform. The gravitational manipulation technology that had allowed humans to mine asteroids and build in zero gravity had a much more destructive application. The Mars gravity cannon fired once, targeting the center of the Council formation. The weapon didn't launch projectiles or energy beams. Instead, it created a localized gravitational distortion that reached across millions of kilometers of space in an instant. 3 Council dreadnoughts found themselves caught in an artificial gravity well that compressed their hulls beyond the breaking point. Their shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic impacts, were useless against a force that worked by altering the fundamental structure of spacetime. "Sir," Torres reported with barely controlled excitement, "Mars Command reports successful target elimination. 3 Dreadnought-class vessels destroyed." But the Council fleet was far from helpless. These were experienced military commanders who had fought campaigns across the galaxy for centuries. They began evasive maneuvers, spreading their formation and returning fire with weapons that could sterilize entire planets. Energy beams that could melt continents struck the Mars station, only to be absorbed and redirected by exotic matter shields that fed on the incoming power. Antimatter warheads designed to crack moons were intercepted by defensive systems that existed in folded space, occupying the same location as the incoming weapons but in a different dimensional framework. "Captain," Kim called out, "Lunabase is requesting permission to fire." Webb checked the tactical display. The Council fleet was now in full combat formation, their weapons targeting every human installation they could detect. It was time to demonstrate that Earth's moon was far more than just a research facility. "Lunabase, you are cleared to fire at will." The antimatter cannon on Lunabase had been built in absolute secrecy over a period of 15 years. Its existence violated several international treaties that had never anticipated the need to defend against alien invasion. When it fired, the energy release was visible from Earth's surface as a brief second sun. The antimatter beam struck the largest Council dreadnought and continued through it as if the massive ship were made of paper. The alien vessel simply ceased to exist, along with 2 destroyers that had been positioned behind it. The beam continued into deep space, creating a line of destruction that would be visible to astronomers for decades to come. "Council fleet is breaking formation," Torres reported. "They're attempting to withdraw to extreme range, signal the asteroid belt installations." Begin Phase 3. Throughout the asteroid belt, installations that had appeared to be simple mining operations revealed their true nature. Humanity had spent decades building a distributed weapons network that extended throughout the solar system. Exotic matter launchers, quantum field manipulators, gravitational anomaly generators. The Council fleet found themselves facing something no galactic civilization had ever encountered, a species that had weaponized their entire solar system.
"Captain," Kim announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council Fleet Commander. Let's hear what they have to say."
The alien voice that came through the speakers was no longer confident or dismissive. Fear was universal, regardless of species. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Corvex of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. We did not understand the nature of your technological capabilities. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. The Council is prepared to negotiate." Webb felt no sympathy. These aliens had come to Earth planning to exterminate most of humanity and enslave the rest. The only reason they wanted to negotiate now was because they had discovered that humans could fight back. "Admiral Corvex, this is Captain Webb. There was no misunderstanding. You threatened to commit genocide against the human species. The only negotiation we're interested in is the terms of your complete withdrawal from human space. Captain, you must understand the Council has authority over this sector of the galaxy. Your species cannot simply declare independence from galactic civilization." Webb looked around the bridge at his crew. Men and women who had spent their careers preparing for threats that might never come, now facing the ultimate test of human determination. "Admiral Corvex, watch and learn." Webb nodded to Torres, who activated the master tactical display. Every human installation throughout the solar system came online simultaneously, revealing the true scope of humanity's preparations. Hundreds of weapons platforms, defense stations, and military facilities that had been hidden for decades. The Council had been studying Earth for generations, cataloging human technology and capabilities. What they hadn't realized was that they had only been seeing what humans wanted them to see. "As you can observe," Webb continued, "humanity has been preparing for this confrontation for longer than your species has been aware of our existence. Earth is not a primitive world with a few military installations. Earth is the center of a distributed civilization that spans multiple planets and has access to technologies your Council has never encountered." The silence from the Council fleet stretched for long minutes as alien commanders tried to process what they were seeing. "Furthermore," Webb added, "you should be aware that this solar system represents only a fraction of human defensive capabilities. Our deep space monitoring stations have been tracking Council fleet movements for months. We know the location of every Council installation within 50 light-years of Earth." This was not entirely true, but the aliens didn't know that, and based on their response, they were beginning to understand the implications. "You're threatening the Council directly?" Corvex asked, his voice barely controlled. "Admiral, I'm informing you that humanity is no longer interested in being bullied by galactic civilization. Your Council operates by finding primitive species and forcing them to submit through superior technology and numbers, but you made a critical error." Webb paused, letting the tension build. "You assumed humans would react like every other species you've encountered. Planet-bound, limited resources, no alternatives to submission. Instead, you found a species that has been expanding throughout their solar system for decades, developing technologies specifically designed to defend against threats from space, and building a military infrastructure that your intelligence completely failed to detect." The tactical display updated again, showing the current positions of Council forces throughout the region. Several more fleets were approaching the solar system, drawn by the reports of resistance. "Admiral Corvex, you now have a choice to make. You can order your fleet to withdraw and inform the Council that Earth is no longer available for conquest. Or you can attempt to continue this engagement and discover exactly what happens when humans fight for their survival." Webb gestured to Torres, who activated the final display. Every human weapon system throughout the solar system locked on to Council targets simultaneously. Hundreds of targeting solutions appeared on sensors that the aliens couldn't even detect. "The choice is yours, Admiral, but I would recommend you choose quickly. My colleagues throughout the solar system are becoming increasingly eager to demonstrate additional human weapons technologies. What Admiral Korvax said next would echo through galactic history for millennia to come. It would be the first time in recorded history that a Galactic Council fleet had voluntarily withdrawn in the face of resistance from a primitive species. Human fleet, this is Admiral Korvax. The Council fleet is withdrawing from your solar system. This matter will be referred to higher authorities for review. Webb allowed himself a smile of grim satisfaction. Admiral, please ensure that your higher authorities understand something. Humanity is no longer interested in isolation. We know about galactic civilization now, and we know about the Council's methods. If you want to coexist peacefully with humanity, we're prepared to discuss that. But any future attempts to threaten Earth or human colonies will be met with the full force of human military capability. As the Council fleet began their withdrawal, Webb turned to his crew. Signal all stations throughout the solar system. Stand down from combat alert, but maintain full readiness. Something tells me this is just the beginning. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen once again, her face showing a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Captain Webb, on behalf of the entire human species, thank you. You and your crew have just accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. Admiral, I have a feeling that what we accomplished today was just the first step. The Council is going to regroup and come back with everything they have. Next time, they won't underestimate us. Chen nodded grimly. Then we'd better make sure we're ready for them. Humanity has just declared its independence from galactic civilization. Now we have to make it stick. As Webb looked out at the stars beyond Earth's solar system, he realized that humanity had just crossed a threshold from which there could be no return. They were no longer an isolated species on a single world. They were a galactic civilization in their own right, with all the responsibilities and dangers that entailed. The Galactic Council had wanted to know about human violence. Now they knew. But more importantly, they had learned something that would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. They had learned that some species, when threatened with extinction, don't submit. They fight back, and sometimes they win. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the largest gathering of world leaders in human history. The Great Assembly Hall in Geneva had been hastily expanded to accommodate representatives from every nation on Earth, along with the recently established colonial councils from Mars, Luna, and the asteroid belt settlements. The holographic display behind her showed a three-dimensional map of local galactic space marked with the positions of known Galactic Council territories, independent systems, and the rapidly expanding sphere of human influence. What had begun as a desperate defense of Earth had evolved into something far more significant: humanity's emergence as a major galactic power. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, 6 months ago, the Galactic Council made the mistake of threatening human extinction. Today, I'm here to report on the consequences of that decision. She activated the display, highlighting a region of space that extended 50 light-years from Earth in every direction. As of this morning, 14 star systems have formally requested protection under the Earth Defense Treaty. 3 more have applied for membership in the Human Colonial Alliance. And we have received diplomatic inquiries from 47 independent worlds that want to know how they can achieve the same independence from Council authority that we demonstrated. A murmur went through the assembled delegates. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as the newly appointed Director of Interstellar Relations, raised her hand. "Admiral Chen, what is our current assessment of Council response to these developments?" Sarah's expression grew serious. "The Council is in crisis. For the first time in their recorded history, they face a species that not only resisted their authority but actively challenged their right to rule. Intelligence reports suggest that several member species are reconsidering their relationship with the Council." She highlighted another section of the star map. More concerning from a strategic standpoint, the Council has begun mobilizing their core fleets. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected significant military buildup in 3 sectors. They're preparing for a major offensive. General Morrison, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces, stood to address the assembly, which brings us to the primary purpose of today's gathering. The Council is coming back, and this time they won't underestimate us. We need to decide how humanity responds to this threat." The debate that followed would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Representatives were discussing interstellar warfare, galactic politics, and the defense of multiple star systems as if such things were routine matters of policy. "We should focus on defense," argued the representative from Japan. "Build up our solar system defenses and wait for them to come to us. We've proven that Earth can't be conquered." "Respectfully, I disagree," responded the Mars colonial governor. "Waiting for them to attack puts us at a disadvantage. We know they're coming, we know approximately when they'll arrive, and we know they'll bring everything they have. This is the perfect opportunity for a preemptive strike." Sarah activated a new display showing detailed intelligence about Council fleet movements. "Our analysis suggests that the Council is planning a three-pronged assault. One fleet will attack Earth directly, attempting to break our main defenses. A second fleet will target our new allies, trying to demonstrate the consequences of defying Council authority. The third fleet will establish a blockade around our solar system, preventing us from supporting our allies or launching counterattacks." Dr. Vasquez frowned as she studied the tactical projections. "How long do we have?" "Best estimate is 8 to 10 months before they're in position to launch coordinated attacks. That gives us time to prepare, but not much time to expand our capabilities significantly." What Sarah didn't mention in the open session was the most classified aspect of human preparation for the coming war. Project Exodus had been activated immediately after the first Council withdrawal. Deep space construction facilities were building something that would fundamentally change the nature of interstellar warfare, humanity's first generation of true starships. Later, in a secure briefing room beneath the assembly hall, Sarah met with a much smaller group: military commanders, leading scientists, and the heads of the various human colonial governments. "Before we discuss grand strategy," Sarah began, "you need to understand what we've accomplished in the past 6 months. Dr. Peterson, please brief them on the fleet construction program." Dr. Peterson appeared via hologram from Luna Base, where the majority of the new ship construction was taking place. "Ladies and gentlemen, 6 months ago, humanity's space fleet consisted of research vessels, mining ships, and a handful of experimental military platforms. Today we have operational battle groups throughout the solar system and construction facilities that are producing warships at a rate that exceeds anything the Council has achieved in their history." The holographic display showed sleek vessels that bore little resemblance to any previous human spacecraft. These ships incorporated every exotic technology that humanity had developed, built around weapons systems that could manipulate reality itself. Each of these vessels represents the culmination of 50 years of theoretical research and practical engineering. They're faster than anything in the Council fleet, more maneuverable, and armed with weapons that the Council has no defense against. General Morrison studied the technical specifications with obvious satisfaction. "How many?" "Currently operational. 47 ships, ranging from destroyers to heavy cruisers. Under construction, 136 additional vessels, including our first Dreadnought-class ships. Projected completion of the current construction cycle, 6 months." Sarah felt a surge of pride mixed with apprehension. In less than a year, humanity had built a space navy that could challenge galactic civilization itself. But building ships was only part of the equation. "Dr. Peterson, what about crew training and combat doctrine? That's where things get interesting." "We've had to completely reimagine space warfare. The Council fights using tactics that date back thousands of years: line formations, energy weapons, conventional missiles. Their entire military doctrine is based on the assumption that physics works the way it did when their species first achieved spaceflight." Peterson activated a simulation showing human ships engaging Council vessels. "Our ships don't follow those rules. We can manipulate gravity, alter probability, and exist in multiple dimensional frameworks simultaneously. Against conventional forces, the tactical advantage is overwhelming." Sarah nodded. "Which brings us to the question of how we use this advantage. Do we wait for the Council to attack, or do we take the initiative?" The discussion that followed would determine the course of human history for generations to come. Some argued for a defensive strategy using humanity's advanced technology to protect Earth and its new allies. Others advocated for a more aggressive approach, striking Council strongholds before they could fully mobilize. Dr. Chen from the Chinese delegation raised a critical question. What are our long-term objectives? Are we fighting for independence, or are we fighting to replace the Council as the dominant galactic power? Sarah had been wrestling with this question for months. That depends on what we discover about the nature of galactic civilization. Our intelligence gathering has revealed some disturbing facts about how the Council maintains power. She activated a new display showing the internal structure of Council territory. The Council doesn't rule through consent or even through superior force alone. They maintain power through what we can only describe as systematic cultural destruction. Every species that joins the Council undergoes cultural adjustment that eliminates their independence, their unique characteristics, and their ability to challenge Council authority. The implications were staggering. 47 species had been absorbed into the Council over the centuries, and none of them had retained their original cultural identity. We're not just fighting for human independence, Sarah continued. We're fighting against a system that destroys the diversity of galactic civilization itself. The Council isn't maintaining order. They're creating a monoculture. General Morrison's expression was grim, which means that simply achieving our own independence isn't enough. As long as the Council exists, they'll continue to threaten other species, and eventually they'll return to finish what they started with us. Dr. Vasquez looked around the room at the assembled leaders. Are we seriously considering taking on the entire Galactic Council? The logistics alone are manageable, Sarah interrupted, but only if we act quickly before they can consolidate their forces. Our analysis suggests that the Council's apparent strength is largely based on the assumption that no member species will ever rebel. Their entire military structure is designed for conquest and suppression, not for defending against an external threat. She activated a tactical display showing Council fleet positions throughout their territory. Most of their forces are deployed in patrol patterns designed to maintain order among subject species. Their core worlds are defended, but not heavily. They've never needed to worry about outside attack. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah was proposing nothing less than a war of liberation that would either free galactic civilization from Council tyranny or result in the complete destruction of humanity. There's one more factor to consider, Sarah added quietly. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected something else. The Council isn't the only galactic power. There are other civilizations beyond Council space, and some of them have been watching our conflict with great interest. She highlighted regions of the galactic map that had previously been marked as unexplored. We've received what appeared to be diplomatic inquiries from at least 3 major powers that exist outside Council authority. They want to know if humanity is interested in broader galactic alliances. General Morrison leaned forward. Are you saying we might have allies in this fight? I'm saying that the galaxy is a much more complex place than the Council would have us believe. They've been telling subject species that galactic civilization consists of the Council and scattered primitive worlds. The reality is that there are major powers out there that exist completely independently of Council authority. Dr. Vasquez was studying the intelligence reports with obvious fascination. Do we know anything about these other powers? Limited information, but what we have is encouraging. They appear to be genuine alliances of independent species rather than dominion systems like the Council. They're interested in trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense rather than conquest and cultural assimilation. Sarah looked around the room at the faces of the people who would decide humanity's future. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a choice to make. We can fight a defensive war to protect Earth and our immediate allies, hoping that the Council will eventually leave us alone. Or we can fight an offensive war to break Council power permanently and help establish a new galactic order based on freedom rather than domination. The vote, when it came, was not as close as Sarah had expected. 47 representatives voted for the offensive strategy, while only 12 voted for the defensive approach. Humanity had chosen its path. 3 months later, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Enterprise, humanity's first Dreadnought-class starship, as it led a battle group of 36 vessels toward the Council core worlds. Behind them, additional battle groups were striking targets throughout Council space, while Earth's defensive forces prepared for the inevitable counterattack. "Admiral," Captain Webb reported from his position at the tactical station, "all ships report ready for hyperspace." Sarah looked out at the stars that surrounded Earth's solar system. Somewhere out there, the future of galactic civilization was being decided. Humanity had started this war to protect their home. Now they were fighting to liberate every species that had been enslaved by Council tyranny. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Today, humanity takes its first step beyond the solar system as a free species. Our mission is to ensure that every intelligent being in the galaxy has the same opportunity to determine their own destiny." She paused, thinking about how far humanity had come in less than a year. From a threatened species facing extinction to the leaders of a galactic rebellion, engage hyperspace drives. Let's go remind the galaxy what freedom looks like. As the human fleet vanished into the space between stars, Earth's deep space monitors detected the first responses from their new allies. Ships from the independent galactic powers were moving toward Council space, ready to support humanity's war of liberation. The Galactic Council had made the mistake of threatening human extinction. Now they were about to discover that some mistakes have consequences that echo across the galaxy for millennia. Humanity had answered the Council's ultimatum with fire and fury. Now it was time to finish what the Council had started. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council was unprepared for Earth's violent reply. HFY Sci-Fi.